Hello, algebra. Welcome. And now we did area and perimeter of a square, a rectangle, and a triangle. So now let's talk circles. So when we're talking circles, area is still called area, but our perimeter is now called our circumference. So that'll make more sense in a few minutes. So if we look at area, the area of a circle, just like the area of a square or a rectangle is a flat surface, it is looking at the amount inside of the circle. So inside this circle here, how much would cover this? So if this was a round table, think tablecloth, okay? Just like rectangles and squares, our units are units squared, or square units. And in this case, our equation is A equals, A meaning for area, pi times r squared. So you probably know about pi. You probably used pi before. You probably know that it's 3.14 and then lots and lots and lots of other numbers, which never repeat each other. And so because we want to have our exact answers, we actually want to use the pi button on our calculator when we do these calculations instead of using 3.14. So I'll talk more about that in class. But what does this r mean? What part of the circle is r? R means our radius. And our radius is super important. It is the distance, this purple line, from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. So it's the distance from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. And I need to know that distance when I'm using the area equation. It is also half of the diameter. Another way of saying that is half of the diameter. So if you look at your notes, that's what you're going to write there. Radius is half of the diameter. But you might want to also write down distance from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. Okay, so if I am looking at this, I'm also going to be looking at circumference. So circumference is the basically the perimeter of the circle. So it's the outside. Okay, it's the distance around. So think bottle label. So if your bottle label, you have to print a rectangle to glue on the bottle. Think a ribbon or something. Well, you come up with some other ideas and let me know what you think. Circumference, what do you think that one's going to start with? If area started with A, what do you think circumference is going to start with? I'm hoping you said C. C equals pi times my D. D is not distance here. D is our diameter. And remember, our diameter is the distance across the circle passing through the center. It's 2 radiuses. So if you only know the radius, but you need the diameter for your circumference equation, then you have to multiply that radius times 2. If in the area, if you're looking at area and you only know the diameter, you're going to have to cut it in half because the radius is half of the diameter. Okay, so let's do some of these. We're going to find the circumference of our circle. We know our radius is 2 inches, but we just learned our circumference equation. We need to know our diameter. So if my radius is 2 inches, how long is my diameter going to be? Remember, a radius is half of the diameter, or the diameter is 2 radiuses. So my diameter is going to be 4. So I'm going to take and I'm going to replace the D with a 4 because D is equal to 4 inches. Okay, now using a calculator, I'm going to use my pi button, and these are right next to each other, so it's multiplication, and I'm going to multiply. I would get 4 pi if I didn't multiply, but if I did multiply, I would get approximately 12.56 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to find the area. For the area, I need my area equation, which is pi times r squared. I got that on my notes, and I'm going to use that every time I have to find area of a circle. I know my r is 2, so my 2 is going to go where my r is. And I'm just going to plug, and I'm going to plug that in, and I'm going to chug out an answer. So pi times 2 squared. What's 2 squared, everyone? You guessed it, it's 4. So here in this instance, and this isn't always the case, our area and our perimeter, or our circumference, are exactly the same. Okay? Why do I have this little squiggly equal sign? Why is my equal sign squiggly? Because when I use the pi button, I'm approximating. I'm getting approximately the answer. The 4 pi here is actually an exact answer because it's 4 times pi. But when I use the button, then I need that squiggly equal sign. All right, let's try another one. I want to find the area and the circumference of this circle. So write down your area equation, write down your circumference equation. What do we know here? We know our diameter. So to find our area, do we have the correct information? Oh, well, let's do circumference first. Okay, sorry. Circumference. We have all the correct information. So it's just plug and chug. Pi times, what's my diameter? 3. Pi times 3. Okay, my exact answer would be that. But I would write my 3 first because we always write our 3 before our variables. And then my approximated answer, I would take the 3 and multiply it by the pi button on your calculator and get 9.42 centimeters. Okay, centimeters, not centimeters squared because this is circumference. Now area, do I know my necessary parts? So pi times r squared. So r, do I know what my r is? I don't, I know my diameter, but I also know that 2 diameters is 1 radius, or 2 radiuses is 1 diameter, so I can cut this in half, and 3 cut in half is 1.5. So I'm going to take my 1.5, and I'm going to plug that in for my r, and then I'm going to plug and chug. I'm going to do the math. 1.5 squared is not 3, that's 1.5 times 2. It's 1.5 times 1.5. You'll want to do that on the calculator. And then multiply that by your pi button, and you should get approximately 63.62 centimeters squared. It's area, so I need my centimeters squared. The way to remember that is I've got r squared, centimeters squared. Okay? All right, next problem. What's the area of a semicircle? So a semicircle is how much of a circle? It's half of a circle. Half of a circle. So what equation am I going to use? I'm definitely going to use my A equals pi r squared because I'm looking for area. Now, that's the equation for a circle, but this is only half the circle. So what am I going to do to my equation? I'm going to divide by 2. But what's r? How do I know what r is? This is d equals 12. That's not r. Oh, divided by 2. So d divided by 2 is 6. That's my r. And now I can plug and chug. I can put my 6 in. I'm going to do this part first. Pi times 6 squared, which is 36. Then I'm going to divide by 2 because I have to do all my exponents before I do my division. And when I do that on the calculator, I'm going to get 36 pi divided by 2, or 18 pi, which is approximately 56.55 units squared. So there isn't an inches or centimeters or anything like that. So I just put units. Okay, let's see now. Whew, how am I going to do this? Find the perimeter of this shape. Oh my. And the area? Oh, okay. So let's dissect the picture. If I'm finding perimeter, I'm going to need circumference of this circle. Wait, that's a semicircle. Circumference of the semicircle. Okay. And then what shape is this? Look at the side lengths. I know it looks like a rectangle, but it's really a square because I've got 5 and 5 here. So since both these sides are equal, both these sides have to be equal, right? So this side is going to be 5. And then so therefore, what's my diameter of my circle? It's going to be 5. So let's draw that. Okay, now that I've got that drawn, let's look at my equations. So my perimeter for my square, because I'm only doing these 3 outside sides, I'm going to add those 3 sides together. I'm not going to include this side because I'm looking at perimeter, not area. So I'm going to add side 1 plus side 2 plus side 3. So what are my side lengths? All 5. Right. So 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15 meters. Oh, not squared. That shouldn't be squared. So take that off. Let's just cross it out, I guess. There, that's not there. Okay. Pretend it's not there. So my circumference of my semicircle, I need to use pi times d. What's d? 5. Divided by 2 because it's a semicircle, not a whole circle. So I do pi times 5 divided by 2. That's approximately 7.85. Now I'm going to take these two things and I'm going to add them together. Again, my squared isn't there. Pretend it's not there. And my thing is all good. Here, I'll actually make them go away. There we go. 22.85 meters when I add those two together. Okay? So, as I am looking at that, there we go. Now, what about my area? So I'm going to use my area equations instead. Okay? Area equations instead. Ignore that last slide because that was a oops, and I forgot to delete it. Okay, so I am going to look at the area of my square. How do I find that? And I'm going to look at the area of my semicircle. Okay, so I could do area of my square was s squared, but length times width always works for anything this shape if it's a rectangle or a square. So I just like to use that one. So I'm going to use area equals length times width. My length times my width is 5 times 5, which is 25. And then again, I'm only using a semicircle because there's only half a circle here. So I'm going to use pi times r squared. That's my circle. Divide that by 2. So what's my r? Is my r 5? Nope. I've got to cut this in half. 2 r's is 5. So 1 r is going to be 2.5 squared. So now, remember, you have to do that on your calculator. 2.5 squared. Then I'm going to get my pi button in there. And I'm going to do pi times 6.25. That's what 2.5 squared is. Divide that by 2, and I'm going to get approximately 9.8. So the area of this is 25. An area I always want to write inside my shape. The area of this is approximately 9.8. So what is my area altogether? What do I need to do with these two? I need to add them together. And I get a running total of 34.8 meters squared. Okay, that one is squared. All right, questions? Any questions? That is all. Ask questions in class. God bless.